Good morning, everyone. We often hear the saying, actions speak louder than words. But in a world where appearances can be deceiving, how do we truly understand someone's real nature? The answer is simple. Focus on just 5 things. These 5 aspects reveal a person's true character, no matter how much they try to hide it. One of the most telling signs of a person's true character is how they treat individuals who hold no power or influence over them. It's easy to be polite and respectful to a boss, a wealthy client, or someone who can offer opportunities. But real kindness is measured by how one behaves toward those who seemingly have nothing to offer in return. Pay close attention to how someone interacts with waiters, janitors, security guards, drivers, or even strangers on the street. Are they dismissive, rude, or impatient? Do they ignore people they deem unimportant? Or do they treat everyone with the same level of respect and kindness, regardless of social status? Genuine kindness isn't selective. A person with true character doesn't adjust their behavior based on someone's position in society. They hold doors open for others, express gratitude, and engage with people with sincerity, whether they're speaking to a CEO or a cashier. Additionally, notice their body language and tone when interacting with service workers. A forced smile or a reluctant thank you isn't the same as genuine appreciation. Someone who is truly kind will acknowledge others as equals, engage in small conversations, and treat people with dignity. This principle extends beyond customer service settings. Watch how they treat their own friends, family, and colleagues, especially in moments of disagreement or frustration. Do they listen, show patience, and treat others with respect? Or do they become dismissive and condescending? At the core of this behavior is empathy. A person's ability to respect and value others, regardless of what they can gain, reveals the depth of their character. It's not about grand gestures or public acts of generosity. It's about consistency in how they treat every human being they encounter. A person's true character isn't revealed when everything is going smoothly. It comes to the surface when they are faced with adversity, stress, or unexpected challenges. How someone reacts in difficult situations speaks volumes about their resilience, emotional intelligence, and inner strength. Pressure has a way of peeling back the layers of politeness and control that people often maintain in ordinary situations. It exposes their real temperament, values, and problem-solving abilities. Do they remain calm and composed, or do they lash out at others? Do they take a step back to analyze the situation, or do they let frustration dictate their actions? One of the most telling signs of a person's character is how they treat those around them when they are under stress. Some people, when overwhelmed, become aggressive, rude, or dismissive, snapping at colleagues, family members, or even strangers. Others maintain patience and self-awareness, ensuring that their personal struggles don't negatively impact those around them. A person who can stay respectful and kind, even when under pressure, demonstrates maturity and emotional control. Another key aspect to observe is whether they take responsibility during difficult moments or immediately start blaming others. In a crisis, some people look for scapegoats, pointing fingers instead of finding solutions. A person with strong character, however, will acknowledge their role in the situation, seek constructive ways to move forward, and work collaboratively with others to resolve problems. Additionally, watch how they handle failure. Do they learn from their mistakes and grow, or do they make excuses and refuse to accept fault? True character is reflected in how someone bounces back from setbacks, whether they show determination and adaptability or crumble under pressure and resort to unhealthy coping mechanisms. It's also important to notice how they manage their emotions. Everyone feels frustration, disappointment, and stress, but the difference lies in how they express those emotions. Some people channel their stress into anger, hostility, or passive-aggressive behavior, while others practice self-control, seek solutions, and maintain perspective. A person with good character understands that challenges are part of life and chooses to face them with grace rather than hostility. Ultimately, moments of pressure and adversity serve as a mirror, revealing a person's true nature. It's easy to be positive and kind when life is smooth, but it takes real strength to maintain dignity, respect, and emotional balance in tough times. A person's true integrity is not measured by what they do when others are paying attention, but by the choices they make when there are no consequences or rewards attached. Honesty at its core is about doing the right thing simply because it is right. not because someone is watching or because it will earn them praise. This is one of the clearest indicators of true character, as it reveals whether a person's moral compass is guided by external validation or internal values. Consider small everyday scenarios that test integrity. When given too much change at a store, do they return the extra money or pocket it without hesitation? If they find a lost wallet, do they make an effort to return it or see it as an opportunity to benefit at someone else's expense? These seemingly minor choices may not seem significant in isolation, but together they paint a picture of someone's true ethical standards. Another critical aspect to observe is how they behave in professional and academic settings. Do they take credit for others' work? Do they cut corners, cheat, or manipulate situations to their advantage when they think they won't get caught? The way someone handles rules, responsibilities, and fairness when there is no immediate accountability speaks volumes about their character. A person who values honesty will act with integrity, even when they could easily get away with dishonesty. Loyalty is another reflection of a person's honesty. If someone speaks highly of their friends and colleagues in their presence, but criticizes or betrays them behind their backs, it reveals a lack of authenticity. A truly honest person remains consistent in their words and actions, whether or not the person they are speaking about is there to hear them. They do not shift their principles based on who is around, nor do they pretend to be someone they are not. Furthermore, observe how they handle commitments and promises. Do they follow through on their word, even when it becomes inconvenient? Or do they make excuses, break promises, and expect others to simply accept their dishonesty? A person with strong character understands that trust is built on reliability and truthfulness, and they take their commitments seriously. One of the most revealing moments comes when someone makes a mistake. Do they admit to their faults and take responsibility, or do they lie to cover their tracks? Dishonest individuals often find ways to shift blame, downplay their errors, or create false narratives to protect their image. However, a person of integrity will own up to their actions, regardless of the personal cost, because they value truth over temporary comfort. Ultimately, honesty when no one is watching is a reflection of a person's true self. It is easy to appear righteous when under scrutiny, but when the pressures of social judgment are removed, the choices people make reveal who they truly are. The way a person talks about others, especially when those people are not around, is one of the most revealing signs of their true character. Words have power. They can uplift, inspire, and encourage, or they can tear down, belittle, and harm. People who consistently speak negatively about others, spread gossip, or find joy in criticizing tend to lack empathy, integrity, and emotional security. On the other hand, those who choose their words with kindness and fairness demonstrate strong moral character. Pay close attention to how someone speaks about their friends, family, colleagues, or even strangers. Do they constantly highlight flaws and shortcomings? Do they enjoy pointing out others' mistakes, weaknesses, or failures? A person who thrives on gossip and negativity often has deep insecurities of their own, using criticism as a way to feel superior. They may also struggle with honesty, as those who habitually talk behind others' backs are often the same people who are two-faced, saying one thing in public and another in private. Another important aspect to notice is how they discuss people they disagree with or those who have wronged them. Do they immediately resort to insults, name-calling, or revengeful speech? Or do they express their frustrations in a mature, constructive way? It is natural to feel upset when conflicts arise, but emotionally intelligent individuals understand the difference between venting and maliciously attacking someone's character. A person who regularly speaks with bitterness and resentment may struggle with emotional control and personal growth. In professional and social settings, observe how they talk about their colleagues and superiors. Do they show respect, even when they have differing opinions? Or do they undermine and demean others to make themselves look better? People with strong character understand that respect is not about blind agreement, but about maintaining dignity in conversation. They can express criticism or concerns without resorting to insults or negativity. Additionally, listen to how they describe people who have helped them in life. Are they grateful, acknowledging the efforts of mentors, friends, or family members who supported them? Or do they act as though their success was achieved entirely on their own, dismissing the contributions of others? Gratitude and humility go hand in hand. Those who recognize the role others have played in their journey tend to be more grounded and appreciative individuals. It's also important to note whether someone speaks well of others, even when there is no apparent benefit in doing so. Some people are polite and complimentary only when they want something in return. However, true character is reflected in those who uplift others without expecting personal gain. They are generous with their words, offer genuine praise, and celebrate the success of others rather than feeling threatened by it. Ultimately, words are a window into a person's heart and mind. The way someone speaks about others, whether with kindness and fairness or with negativity and judgment, reflects their values, self-awareness, and overall character. One of the clearest signs of a person's true character is how they handle responsibility, especially when things go wrong. Mistakes, failures, and setbacks are inevitable in life, but how a person responds to them reveals their maturity, integrity, and personal accountability. Some people take ownership of their actions, admit when they are wrong, and work to make things right. Others deflect blame, make excuses, or shift responsibility onto others to protect their ego. When someone makes a mistake, observe their first instinct. Do they acknowledge their error and seek to correct it, or do they immediately look for a way to avoid blame? A person with strong character understands that admitting fault does not make them weak. Rather, it demonstrates strength, honesty, and self-awareness. They recognize that growth comes from learning, and they use their failures as opportunities to improve rather than as something to be ashamed of. Conversely, individuals who refuse to take responsibility often engage in blame shifting. They may point fingers at colleagues, friends, or even external circumstances to avoid admitting their role in a problem. This pattern of behavior is not only dishonest but also damaging. It prevents personal growth, erodes trust, and creates an environment of defensiveness and denial. People who consistently dodge responsibility often struggle with accountability in other areas of their lives as well, whether in relationships, work, or personal commitments. Another key aspect of responsibility is how a person handles commitments and promises. Do they follow through on their word even when it becomes inconvenient, or do they make excuses and hope others will simply forget? Reliable people understand that their commitments matter, and that broken promises, even small ones, can damage trust. A person of strong character doesn't just say what others want to hear, they take their obligations seriously and follow through with action. Additionally, watch how someone reacts to constructive criticism. A responsible individual is open to feedback, even if it is uncomfortable. Instead of becoming defensive or dismissive, they listen, reflect, and make adjustments where necessary. They don't see criticism as a personal attack, but as an opportunity for growth. In contrast, those who refuse to take responsibility often react with anger, excuses, or denial when confronted with their mistakes. They view accountability as a threat rather than a tool for self-improvement. A person's willingness to take responsibility also extends to how they treat others when they are in a position of authority. Do they own up to their leadership mistakes, or do they shift the burden onto their team? Good leaders accept responsibility for failures and share credit for success. They don't let others take the fall for their decisions, nor do they avoid difficult conversations when things go wrong. Instead, they acknowledge the issue, take steps to fix it, and support those who rely on them. Finally, responsibility is about more than just personal mistakes. It's also about how a person contributes to the well-being of those around them. Do they step up when someone needs help, or do they assume it's not their problem? Do they take care of their obligations to their family, friends, and community, or do they expect others to carry the burden? People with strong character don't ignore their duties or make excuses for inaction. They understand that being responsible is a fundamental part of being a trustworthy and dependable person. In a world where people can easily disguise their true nature with carefully chosen words, practiced politeness, or even social media personas, it can be difficult to determine someone's real character. However, by focusing on the 5 key behaviors, how they treat those who can't benefit them, how they react under pressure, their honesty when no one is watching, how they speak about others, and their willingness to take responsibility, we gain deep insight into who they truly are. These observations go beyond surface-level impressions and allow us to judge character based on actions rather than appearances. One of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming that character can be judged by charm, intelligence, or social status. Many individuals know how to present themselves in a likable way, but likability is not the same as integrity. A person may be charismatic and well-spoken, yet lack honesty, kindness, or accountability. Instead of being misled by outward traits, we should watch how they behave in different situations. Do they maintain their values when no one is watching? Are they consistent in their actions? Or do they change depending on what benefits them? Observing these 5 key behaviors also helps us protect ourselves from deception and manipulation. Some people are experts at pretending to be kind, responsible, or trustworthy when they have something to gain. However, they can't fake their character indefinitely. Sooner or later, their true nature will show in their actions. If we pay attention, we can recognize red flags early on, before we place our trust in the wrong people. Another important aspect of using these observations to judge character is understanding that no one is perfect. Everyone makes mistakes, loses their temper, or has moments of weakness. The key is to look at patterns over time. A single bad day does not define someone's entire character, but consistent behavior does. If someone repeatedly avoids responsibility, disrespects those who can't benefit them, or speaks negatively about others, it is a strong indication of their true nature. This approach is also useful in personal and professional relationships. In friendships, it helps us surround ourselves with people who are genuine, supportive, and trustworthy. In the workplace, it allows us to identify colleagues and leaders who act with integrity and reliability. When choosing partners, friends, or business associates, judging character accurately can help us build stronger, healthier, and more meaningful connections. Additionally, observing these 5 behaviors can help us reflect on our own character. It's easy to judge others, but it's just as important to ask ourselves, how do I treat those who can't benefit me? How do I react under pressure? Am I honest, even when no one is watching? Do I speak about others with kindness and fairness? Do I take responsibility for my mistakes? By evaluating ourselves with the same standards we use to assess others, we can ensure that we are also living with integrity and strong character. Ultimately, judging character accurately is not about being overly critical of others, but about seeking truth in human behavior. By focusing on these 5 key observations, we can see beyond words and appearances, allowing us to form deeper, more authentic connections with the people around us. One of the most important lessons in life is that words can be deceiving, but actions always reveal the truth. Many people know exactly what to say to appear kind, trustworthy, or responsible, but their actions often tell a different story. This is why, when trying to understand someone's true character, it is far more effective to observe what they do rather than simply believe what they say. People can make promises, express good intentions, or even claim strong moral values, but if their actions contradict their words, the truth lies in what they do, not what they say. There are countless situations where this principle applies. In friendships and relationships, someone might say they care about you, but if they consistently fail to show up when you need them, break promises, or treat you poorly, their actions reveal that their words were empty. In the workplace, a colleague might talk about teamwork and integrity, but if they take credit for others' work, avoid responsibility, or behave dishonestly when it benefits them, their true character is exposed. One of the biggest mistakes people make is trusting words without looking for proof in actions. We often want to believe what people tell us, especially if their words align with what we hope to hear. However, relying on words alone can lead to disappointment and betrayal. The reality is that people can say anything, but consistent actions over time are what truly define a person. Someone who repeatedly lies, mistreats others, or avoids responsibility, despite saying all the right things, is showing their true nature through their behavior. This principle is particularly important when evaluating leadership and authority figures. Many people in positions of power use persuasive speech to gain trust and influence others. However, a true leader is not defined by how well they speak, but by what they do. Do they follow through on their promises? Do they treat people with respect and fairness? Do they lead by example, or do they expect others to live by standards they do not uphold themselves? Watching their actions rather than their words will reveal whether they are genuinely ethical and capable leaders or just skilled manipulators. Another key aspect of this principle is consistency. Anyone can put on a good act for a short time, but a person's real character is revealed in their repeated behaviors. If someone acts kindly when it benefits them, but is rude and dismissive when they have nothing to gain, their kindness was never genuine. If someone apologizes for bad behavior but continues to repeat the same actions, their apology was just words with no real meaning. True character is demonstrated through consistency. What a person does repeatedly, even when no one is watching or when there is no immediate reward. This approach to judging character is not about being overly skeptical or distrusting of others, but about being realistic. It allows us to make better decisions about who to trust, who to invest in, and who to distance ourselves from. It also helps us avoid being manipulated by those who use words as a tool for deception. By focusing on actions rather than words, we develop a clearer understanding of the people around us. We see who is truly reliable, who is genuinely kind, and who acts with integrity. At the same time, we also become more mindful of our own actions, ensuring that we not only say the right things, but also live by them. By applying this principle in our daily lives, we can cultivate stronger, more meaningful relationships built on trust and authenticity. When we judge people by their actions rather than their words, we avoid unnecessary disappointments and protect ourselves from those who may try to deceive or manipulate us. This mindset also helps us hold ourselves accountable. It's easy to say we value honesty, kindness, or hard work, but do our actions reflect those values? Are we consistently treating others with respect, even when there is no benefit to us? Are we following through on our commitments and taking responsibility for our mistakes? Just as we observe others to determine their character, we must also examine our own behaviors to ensure that we are living in alignment with our values. Another important factor is patience. People's true nature is not always immediately obvious, and some individuals are skilled at hiding their real character for extended periods. However, with time, patterns emerge, and actions eventually reveal the truth. This is why it's crucial not to rush to conclusions based on words alone. Instead, observe how someone behaves in different situations, how they treat those who can't benefit them, how they handle stress, how they act when they think no one is watching, and whether their actions align with their words. When we adopt this approach, we become more discerning and less susceptible to manipulation. We stop placing blind trust in people just because they sound convincing, and we learn to trust those whose actions prove their reliability. We surround ourselves with people who are genuinely good-hearted, responsible, and honest, rather than those who merely pretend to be. Ultimately, character is not defined by what someone says about themselves, but by what they consistently do. If we want to truly understand a person, we must pay attention to their actions, for they speak louder than words ever could. By embracing this perspective, we become wiser in our interactions and decision-making. We learn to distinguish between those who are genuine and those who only pretend to have good intentions. This ability to read character accurately can protect us from toxic relationships, dishonest colleagues, and unreliable individuals who may bring negativity into our lives. It also helps us build stronger connections with people who truly deserve our trust. When we recognize individuals whose actions align with their words, who are consistent, reliable, and principled, we can form deep, meaningful relationships based on mutual respect and integrity. These are the people who will stand by us during tough times, honor their commitments, and contribute positively to our lives. Furthermore, this approach strengthens our own integrity. When we hold ourselves to the same standard we expect from others, we ensure that our actions reflect our values. Instead of just speaking about honesty, kindness, and responsibility, we live by them. This not only earns us the trust and respect of others, but also gives us a sense of self-respect and fulfillment. In the end, actions are the truest measure of a person's character. Words can be manipulated, but consistent behavior cannot be faked forever. When we stop being swayed by empty promises and start focusing on observable actions, we gain clarity, make better choices, and surround ourselves with people who are truly deserving of our time and trust. In life, we will encounter many people who say all the right things but do not back them up with their actions. However, by observing how someone treats others, handles challenges, stays honest, speaks about people, and takes responsibility, we can see their true character. The key is to remain patient and let actions reveal the truth over time. Trust should not be given based on words alone, but earned through consistent, honorable behavior. When we learn to judge people by what they do rather than what they say, we make better choices about who to trust. who to invest in, and who to distance ourselves from. Ultimately, character is not about appearances or promises. It is about integrity, consistency. By focusing on actions rather than words, we not only protect ourselves from deception, but also build deeper, more meaningful relationships with people who truly deserve our trust and respect.